Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode of the Emergent Gamer Podcast, but not a real episode of the Emergent Gamer Podcast, a spoiler cast of the Emergent Gamer Podcast. It's me, myself, Trip Zero, and I'm here with
Neo Aoshi. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We're here to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Remake that we both have just very recently finished, and we're going to just blow it wide open and talk about it.
Absolutely.
Neo, I think what we do... talk about what you loved about the game, talk about your experience with it, essentially. I'll do the same for me, and then we'll kind of go through the game, maybe beat by beat, and talk about what was different about it, our experience with it as we went, changes from the original, things that were done very well, and just just straight up opinions about it. So, real quick exclaimer, if it isn't already blatantly obvious, there will be insane amounts of spoilers for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and even the original game.
I would say, that and Crisis Core as well, because we're going to spoil that as well.
Have not played it, have any desire to play it, while I would love you to listen to this episode, please come back to it later after you have, because it's going to ruin some shit.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's start, Neo. Go ahead and rip in, because you played this pretty much when it came out, right?
Yeah, and
day one, you were like on it.
Yeah, and I did the same thing you did. I played the whole thing on stream, like the whole thing. So
nice.
it took me like a week or so, like a week and a half to beat it. Overall, I thought the experience of the game was 100% fresh. Like it felt really good, like a really good reimagining of the experience of the first 5 hours, I guess, of the Final Fantasy game, because that's what it is, right? Like it's just the Midgar section.
I finished the Midgar section this morning on my stream, and that was 5.5 hours roughly.
Wow.
With pretty much no extra leveling. It's a little bit of an increased time because I'm voice acting while I play it. Not aggressively, but I'm reading everything out loud. So it's not like, you're not reading as quickly as you can just if you're just by yourself silently. So maybe shave 30 minutes to an hour off of that, maybe.
That version of the game you're playing, you can also speed up movement. Like you can speed the game speed up.
I'm speeding too, and I forgot about that. Yeah. It's not movement. I'm only keeping my movement sped up during battles. I want to have the experience be the same. But when you're just in a fight, you
don't need to wait for timers. Yeah.
No one cares. It's 2020.
Yeah, I agree.
So roughly they made a 4.5 to 5 hour experience a 40-something hour experience, essentially.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about them blowing the game up like that, taking the Midgar section and making it like a full game experience?
I absolutely love it. I love it wholeheartedly. There's no reason why I think they should minimize it to fit more of the whole overall story into the game, because they did it so well. It didn't feel like padding for the sake of padding. And while there were things that were there, I don't think I know a video game that exists at all that doesn't have some kind of padding for length, or to give some players busy work to give them more to do in the game. The majority of this game, the vast majority, especially sequences that they added that were relative to the story, or relevant to the story, I should say, were all done so well, and with so much care and love, and only served to expand the overall story, that I had no problem with anything that they added into the game.
I do agree as well, to almost a certain extent. There are certain sequences that occur that do, for me, feel like we're just straight padding. There are moments where I understand they changed the way the battle system works, is so you don't really have to grind through this game. it's really not necessary. The battles are there no matter what. They're always balanced. They're always winnable, I guess you could say, no matter what level you are.
Because like you, I was committed to playing this on stream.
Yeah.
And everywhere that I stopped, I wasn't really in a place to grind out levels or power or level up my materia or whatever. So I never did any extra battling in the game. I just played it linearly, and what I fought, and that was about it. I leveled up my weapons as I went. I infused, the weapon cores with your skills you can select. I did that as I went. Not even in a timely manner. I would do major catch-up sections. They'd be we get to another city, oh shit, I haven't touched this in hours, and I had 60 points built up, and I would go back and
eventually what I did was I let the game just auto allocate those. So as I played, it would just I didn't have to worry about going into that menu all the time. I just wanted I think I was about halfway or 20 or 30 hours into the game, and I was like, you know what? just auto update these, upgrade these weapons for me. I don't care. I'll just do materia swapping. Like, I'm okay with that.
So I have a question about that, because I never touched the auto allocate system. I was like, I'll just go in and I might want to jump around, whatever I'm feeling in the moment. If you select that, does it, like, as soon as you earn enough points to get a new skill, does it just do that for you?
It just does it, yeah. It just did it.
Does it tell you? Does it give you a pop-up like, hey, we bought you a new skill or something?
You go into the menu and you'll see that it did spend points. That's all. That's what you'll see. And then actually,
like, you'll see them increasing, and then like if you pay attention, it'll decrease.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you actually turn that on, you could actually have it choose: do you want the upgrades to be focused more defensively or offensively, or do you just want to balance it? Yeah,
I've seen the selection where they have like three. I think it's like 3 options for it, and I was just like, nah, I'll go in there and kind of do it myself.
Yeah, for sure. But after a while, it got to the point where, because I kept switching weapons. And we can talk about the battle system and everything like that. Like, I kept switching weapons to get their moves unlocked. When you got 100%, you get proficient with the weapon,
right? And
then it unlocks, and then I'll switch back to a better weapon that I felt
because you keep
was
that
better.
Skill even taking the weapon off. That's why you want to get proficient with the skill.
Exactly.
Another thing I was lazy with while playing. I definitely did not have all the skills.
I didn't do it for Aerith. I got them all for Tifa, Barret, and Cloud, because they were most of the time in the party. And, like, I didn't have time to play with all of Aerith's stuff, because she, like, comes in the party, and then she leaves for a while, and then she comes back at the end. You know, it's like...
Right.
Didn't really get that
Question
big a chance.
Before we dive into more detailed. At the end of the game, you unlock hard mode. Do you have plans to go back and try to play this game on hard? Because normal...
I don't know.
It was kind of hard, dude, to be honest.
It was, and there were, like, a lot of tough fights, and we're going to spoil some fights. Like, this is a spoiler cast, so we don't have to worry about spoilers, right?
Yeah, we're going to stop telling you, because if you come this far, you're locked in.
The first real challenge I ran into was the Hell House in the Coliseum.
Oh, yeah.
That was, like, the first big challenge, and I had to do that fight, like, 2 or 3 times until, like, I really read the assess description, and what it wanted you to do was... You can see the aura around it, that, like, it uses a specific magic, and they want you to use the opposite magic to stagger it.
Right.
So it took me a little while to, like, catch on to that. And then the next hard fight that I ran into that was, like, really, like, tough was the Behemoth Type 0 fight, which I watched you do that, and I think you did it the first time. Right?
Yeah,
you one-shot it.
Yeah.
It took me... I died like 4 or 5 times to that guy, and then I, like, turned the game off, and then I had to come back to it. And then I one-shot it the next time I came to it, so that was fine.
Now, the funny thing is, man, the only bosses that I've died to were near the end, after the elevator. You fight the 4-wheeled tank with Barret and Aerith in Red 13.
Yep.
I died to him once because I was focusing on the wheels the first time, and that was kind of a waste of time. In my opinion. And I just lost all my cover, and I'm like, well, I know I can't, avoid this beam, or if there was a way, I didn't know how to avoid the beam attack, like the big center beam attack.
Right.
I was like, I'm just gonna tank it. Like, I'll have Barret die, and then I'll have Aerith revive her. Well, the computer decided to put Aerith directly behind Barret as I was controlling him, so everyone just got one shot, and it was a game over. So I died during that. I definitely died once during Rufus. That fight was wild, dude.
Rufus, the first in the church?
No, you're thinking of Reno.
Rufus,
like Vice President Rufus.
Vice President Rufus. I'm sorry. Yep, you're right.
I died during that once.
Yeah, that took me once. I died once too. And I think I died once in that tank battle that you were talking about.
I'm trying to think about what else I really died to. I died once in both motorcycle sequences.
Okay.
The new one and the ending one.
I died in the ending one once.
That, dude.
Yeah.
I've been good on bosses, even if they take me a little while and things get a little tedious. Like, I'll just kind of stick around, survive, and kind of get my footing and come back again. What killed me more than bosses were just not preparing properly for groups of enemies.
Right.
And the enemy, like, makeup for groups.
If you're missing the wrong materia, like, the wrong materia means that you're gonna struggle throughout the fight, right?
The wrong materia, or just not dealing with the right enemies efficiently, and then all of a sudden it becomes a snowball effect where you're just getting boned, dude. Like, the first time I died in a game ever was actually escaping the reactor. Like, there was a group of, like, grenadiers and shielded enemies, like, walking the streets. It just obliterated me. I'm like, oh,
was that before you jump on the train?
Yes, before I even jumped on the train.
Yeah, that fight took me twice too. Yeah, because there's a lot of them, and
there's a lot of them.
You gotta get around them.
Going into the Shinra building, when Barret falls off the truck, and then you have to fight through the garage.
Yeah.
There were 2 groups of enemies in the last 2 major groups Each group killed me once. Like I got killed by a group, reloaded, fought that group. One of the next group died, reloaded, fought that group again. I was like, dude, like there was
what is happening?
Difficulty spike, like with just the random enemies going into the building, and I thought it was going to be like that nonstop. Obviously, the building section becomes pretty chill comparatively to the rest of the game until you get to the very end when it's just a gauntlet of nothing but increasingly difficult bosses.
Yeah, which we'll talk about. We'll get to that, but there's that the Shinra building itself became like its own section, and then they introduced like another VR training lab at the end there, and I was like, yo, this isn't the time or place to introduce this. Like, we're coming to the end of the game here. Like, this is.
I saw that, and it made me think, like, are we gonna hit a point where they want us to like use the building as like a home? Like, am I gonna have to do
like, is this a hub?
Quests in the Shinra building, like the other like slum cities?
I started to think that too. They didn't do that. I did all the Coliseum fights like after the fact, and those.
See, I didn't touch any of those.
So you should because it gave you extra AP. The rewards when you because you did the Tifa, Barrett, and Cloud ones.
I think there's some manuscripts in there as well.
Yep.
And the things that give you like bumps to your abilities and your
that's the AP bumps. Yeah. And I used that to upgrade all my weapons, like to unlock all my weapon skills. So that became increasingly easy.
Nice.
I also used
nice.
The kids have that mini game, the box breaking mini game. So I use that to just like unlock weapons, just unlock Cloud skills and shit.
If you play that game, do you get like what do you get when you play it again? I only played it once, and I got the highest score, and then I just dipped forever.
I think you just get more Moogle medals. No, I don't remember. I don't remember what you got. I literally just kept doing it. I was like, okay, let me just unlock these weapons abilities. So I would equip their abilities, and then I would just use them.
Because hitting the boxes counts.
Yeah, using the ability.
Just using the abilities. Yeah, so that was a good way to.
The way you increase proficiency is by using that weapon's ability. So that's how you would do that. Yeah.
Wow, the box game that's a really smart idea as a way to kind of burn through your weapon because just literally an amount of times using it.
Right. It's just a bunch of times. So for combat itself, though, I really liked the changes to combat they made, like or just not just changes, like the combat system that they made for this game, because it is a completely unique and new combat system. It takes the best.
I end up loving it for sure.
I think it takes the best parts of like the Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy 15 style action combat, and integrates the classic style RPG menu system like pretty perfectly. And
it really does, man. It's a good mix of the both.
I got into a really good rhythm of being like, okay, Cloud's got his ATB stuff. Let's cast some fire or use one of his weapon skills. And then I go switch to Tifa. Tifa, unload your stuff. Cast barrier on people. Let's go. And then I switch to Barrett. And then and then you get the materials that like boost your ATB gauge speed. And I would put it on people like I know that have cure and like can like do it like ready up faster. And it became like a dance like of just jumping between characters. Okay, Cloud's stunned now. I got to switch to Tifa. Help her out. Cast some spells. And then it would just be a dance of like switching my characters and switching all of these and going through their abilities like pretty well.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Barrett ended up becoming one of my like big heavy hitters toward the end there. For a lot of his abilities became like real powerful. Yeah. But yeah, the combat system was hella fun. Every time I got into combat, I was like looking forward to it. It wasn't like a tedious thing where you're just gotta click through the menus and stuff. Yeah.
No,
what do you think of it?
It made every boss, every encounter something just so exciting. And it's funny because I remember playing the demo. We kind of had similar thoughts during the demo, but I was definitely more on the negative side of the battle system in the demo. It's just because I didn't get it. Like it didn't click for me when I was playing the demo. And then I realized that like there were things that I wasn't doing correctly. And that theme has continued for me throughout the entire game. Like I was swapping characters to use their abilities without using my shoulder buttons to swap to the command list of someone else while still controlling one character. Because whenever you control a character, this is actually one of my very few negative things I have to say about the battle system specifically, is that whenever you swap control of a character directly to actually make them run around and attack and do whatever, the game knows that like immediately and you become the target for like everything.
Right.
It seems a little bit unnatural to me.
Yeah, you instantly gain aggro from whatever is fighting.
And you haven't done anything. You haven't done anything with the character. You've just swapped control to it, but all of a sudden the AI is like, well, you get this
it's your turn.
100%.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit frustrating. And when I found out that I could just swap to, Aerith's menu for a cure while still being Cloud, I was like, oh my god, dude, duh.
Changes everything.
Makes so much sense. And then up until the end of the game, I was, oh my god, dude, I was about to fight like the final boss, and I'm like in my menus, and I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god, there has been a quick access shortcut for up to 4 commands on every character that I can assign to everything.
No.
I menued the entire game. I didn't use a quick command once.
No.
I
Dude.
menued the entire game front to back. Because by the time I knew about it, I'm like, I'm not going to be in the rhythm to do this. I have to stick to menus, or else I'm not going to have a chance. Like I have to retrain myself.
You hold L1 and it brings up a quick menu.
Yep.
Of shortcuts.
Yes, it does.
Trip.
And I was at the end. Yeah. I had a great time, dude. I had a great time. But like, if I ever take on hard mode, I know I'm going to have to do quick attacks. Or quick,
it's so good for like Tifa, because she has that charge ability, right? That charges up her triangle attack, right?
Yeah.
So you would just quickly use the menu to like boost it up. She uses a gauge and she boosts, and then you can.
Yeah.
You don't have to stop in menus, and you can keep going,
dude.
Yeah.
I know, man. Like especially at the Rufus fight, every boss fight has the thing that makes it easier. And Rufus specifically, I never did this in the fight. It was a very long and very tedious fight. But when you scan him, when you use assess, it tells you there's one specific skill. Like it uses that wording. One of Cloud's skills will stagger him immediately. And I could never get like a skill to land, probably because I'm taking too much time to like queue it up, right? So like every time I went to try a skill to see if I could find the one that would do it, I would just get like countered immediately by him, and I was like,
it was his counter skill, right? Was it his counter skill?
It was Braver. If you use Braver while Rufus is reloading, that's an immediate like stagger, like immediately.
I don't think I did that to that fight.
I didn't do it either.
I think I liked to chill in Punisher mode, and I like to chill in Punisher mode and wait for the attack, and got really patient. Because Cloud will counter in that.
It was a very patient fight, yeah, for sure.
Especially with that fight, you had to be, for sure.
But like, if I had Braver on a quick access swap, I could probably as I'm running on the fly.
It's one of the first skills that's on that menu.
Right. Yeah. I'm just saying, if it was in my like brain's wheelhouse as an option, like that probably would have been a much easier thing to make happen.
They show you that in like the first like 10 minutes.
I'm not trying
to like make you feel dumb.
I know. No, and trust me, like I do this with everything. Like I'll be like, oh yeah, cool, and then it just goes right out of my head because like I'm talking to someone else or I'm on my phone or something, and just like doesn't actually sink in.
Yeah.
But I'm at the end of the game and I'm like, oh my god, dude. Oh my god. I could have been doing this the entire time.
Oh man.
So no, I menued slow menu through the entire thing and loved it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the combat system's great, right? Overall. Give it a nice A+, yeah. It felt good.
It's got a lot of different variables that keeps it always fresh, keeps you going.
I would love to see
what feels different. It's
what
great.
they do with the new characters for the next game, because like Red 13 was not he was in the game, but he is not playable.
Not controllable, yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to see how like they incorporate the rest of the cast. That you can play.
I'm very excited, man. Very very excited.
Do you want to hop right into like story stuff, story beats?
The only thing I want to touch on really quickly, because it was so well done, dude, is the music for this game.
That's something I want to talk about in our story discussion too, because I feel as though, yes, the music is, the game 100% utilizes its music to its like maximum potential, and they they obviously they didn't rescore it, but like they've kind of like I would say remastered it. Yeah, I guess they rescored it.
No, they completely rewrote every single song for this game.
Right.
And of course that means rescoring, and even multiple songs were rewritten multiple times in multiple different ways. Songs were woven together that weren't together before. Songs were,
and that's actually part of the things I want to touch on. Is I think those implicate heavy. The way they use music actually is like a subtle fourth wall breaking from the plot. Like the way they cue music up, and like if we can start talking about it, because hell yes, the music is 100% perfect, and it actually this game invokes, I don't know, for you probably is true, but it invokes a lot of nostalgia alone. Just anytime, just watching the cutscenes and being in a moment where Cloud is in Tifa's bar and they're talking and having a drink together, and then her music plays, and then the battle music itself when you're in a fight, and that hype, it's got that hype building moments that you used to think about.
Yeah, of course.
And your brain like kind of, well, my brain brings me back to that time when I used to fight, in this game, and now it feels like a modern experience. But
I know.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like a similar experience to that. Because I love so much the music, and I'm gonna actually start with the moment of the music I liked the least.
Yeah.
When you fight Genova.
Yeah.
In the top level of the building and in the president's office.
Yeah.
When it started in Genova's first form, I didn't like the slow orchestration version.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, no, I see what they're doing. It is the Genova theme, but I'm like, I kind of wish it was more like the original. And then as the battle gets more intense and just gets hyped up, then like the tempo picks up and it's the original like it just like fucking kicks in and you're like, dude, like I'm fucking in it now.
Yeah, now they did a slow build of it.
I know, and I was just like, why did I ever doubt that the music was going to be incredible? Because it's been incredible nonstop, and it just
and
it hit me right there.
You actually mentioned this before too. You mentioned that the way they also use music in like overworld situations where like they'll play a song and then the battle kicks in and then the music switches to a different version of it, like on the really nice transition between them.
It doesn't stop or cut or go to a different track. Like sometimes where you are will become the battle theme in a different way. They'll just twist the track and add like a battle-ness to it, and then it'll go back out to a calmer version.
Become more subtle, yeah.
And
it's amazingly well done.
And there was new tracks as well. Like there's a track in Sector 5 around that town, that like guitar, that like little strummy guitar song with the little solo. It's the credits song too, where the guy like sings over it.
Yep. Okay. That's like the new main theme of the game. That's
yes,
that.
It's the entirely brand new track. It's called Hollow. It's incredible. It's amazing. I was playing all guitar the other night. It's just fun to just chill out and it's so good, man.
You know what song really, or one of the just since we're talking about the music that stood out. I really loved the song that played in the tunnels when you were with Aerith, when it was Aerith and Cloud, and you came across like so first, like when you first enter it plays this like real jamming, like I want to say like beat or some kind of like beat tone.
Yeah, I forget the track that it starts with. I think it is just like an inversion on the original collapsed freeway section.
Right. And then you meet the gang underneath, and then it changes again, and it's so good. Yeah.
That song is the original Wall Market theme, but like done in like a trap rap kind of beat.
Yeah.
Style. Like that's
awesome.
It's Wall Market. It's not the new Wall Market, what they use for the game now, but that's the original Wall Market theme.
Yeah, speaking of Wall Market walking to different areas, the music actually, when you were in the Chocobo area, it had like a Western twang to it.
But and again, it was the same song.
And it just transitioned, and then you go into like Wall Market Central and it becomes something else. You go to like the Honeybee Inn, it becomes something else. That area, it changes as you move to different sections of Wall Market. Very clever the way it used.
The other track that I absolutely loved was their spin on the
yeah, dude. Fuck yeah.
That version in Remake, dude, I was fucking jamming every single time. That was a bop. It was a bop and a half. It was so good.
Yeah, that's a great song. Yeah, and every time you hear it, and like it's easy to notice because we both listened to these tracks growing up. So every time you hear it, you go, "Oh shit, they're playing this song."
Yeah, I know.
And then bringing it back to the plot of the game, like just starting out, like they do that all the time in this game, and they cue music in certain sections to almost make you think about something that's happening. And if you don't, can I give you like the first example of that I want to
give? Please.
Yeah. All right. So the opening of the game, we'll just start with the opening of the game.
Right.
They expanded the opening from the original game. They give you like a sweeping shot of like the people living in Midgar, right? But then it gets to the part where Aerith she's the first shot of the game, right? Like the original game, she is the first shot, and the opening notes play, but in this version of it, they like sneak in some notes of One Winged Angel.
Yes,
they creep it in there. Now, if you want to, I can.
It's just like the little piano, like the bing, bing, bing.
Yeah, and then
yeah.
but it's still playing like the opening bombing mission song, which is what that song is, right?
Yep.
If I may, this leads into: do we want to go right to?
Depends on where you. Yeah. Go where?
Right to the ending, and what that means, because I have a feeling there are threads throughout this entire game, all the way up to the ending, that implicate something. Well, obviously, you know what it is. I watched your stream the other.
Yeah.
You finish it.
So let's instead of diving into the ending deeply, let's just kind of like say it, and then we can use that as knowledge as we kind of paint through the game. Okay. Kind of.
So the end of the game. You do everything. You fight Rufus. You fight the monster. You fight the elevator boss, who becomes that's the Tifa Barrett fight. And what ends up happening is you're on the highway, and in the normal old game, I think you just leave Midgar, right? The team just leaves Midgar.
You leave Midgar.
In the original
thing. Yes, in the original, you fight that motorcycle boss, which I forgot was actually in the original game. I really did. I thought you just
You fought some, right. Yeah, and then
I totally forgot he was actually in it. But then he's in it. You stop and you do like a traditional battle after the bike sequence.
Yeah.
And they stand on the freeway for a little bit, watch the sun come up, and be like, "Well, I guess." Tifa literally has a line that's like, "Well, I guess this is the start of our journey." And I'm like, "Bro, you don't even know. We just played 40 hours of this journey in 2020." And then they climb down like a rope and a hook, and then they're standing outside of gates to Sector 7, which is where you re-enter if you walk back to Midgar after you leave. But yeah, after that they just. They fight the boss, they escape on a motorcycle, and they climb on down from the plate. And
then your first...
walking towards Calm.
Go to Calm, which is a town outside Midgar. But in this game, Sephiroth intervenes, and there's a thread throughout the whole game of these Whispers of Fate who show up throughout the entire game, not in the original game.
No, not at all. What they kind of imply as you learn more about these things, and then it becomes not an implication and a literal sense. These ghost things, they look like Dementors in Harry Potter if you haven't played the game. And if you haven't played the game and you're listening to this, I'm sorry.
But
I'm not
you messed
sorry
up.
They look like Dementors, and their job is to keep the threads of fate on track. And what that means, without all the fancy, video game language, is making sure things happen the way that they were supposed to happen
in the original game.
That sentence alone implies that there are multiple timelines for things.
Which absolutely
is cool, but it's very slippery slope.
I feel the same way. I'm like, I like this idea, because otherwise we're just doing the same thing we did in 96, right?
Right. Is there anything wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But what I do have a problem with is the use of these this plot device, these whispers, that's so heavy-handed in your face, that's literally looking at the camera constantly being like, no, this is how it's supposed to happen, and these characters are supposed to acknowledge it this way.
It's a very meta conversation. Like, it's almost like they were like a developer commentary alongside with you, like we know how strong you are tied to this game, and we're giving it to you, but also look what's new and look how it's not
what
the
we're
same.
doing differently.
Isn't this wild? Like, so I mean, I hope it never goes beyond the meta commentary stage. Like, I hope they don't really bring people back that were dead, even though I know that they might in certain ways.
And
we can.
The ending seems to imply that, right? It seems to imply that
there are certain things that I think at the ending, which I think we'll get to in more detail when we kind of get there.
So
that do imply that we might see some people that traditionally would have died in the story.
Correct. And maybe it would change the story in general of what they're going to tell past this game.
Right.
In general.
I do have some hopes around that, give or take. But yes, let's...
Yeah, the end.
That said, let's go back.
And the game ends with a fight with Sephiroth, right? With at a part of the game where you don't see him, right? Like, until later in the game, he becomes an entity after the Shinra section.
He's haunting Cloud in visions, just like what happens in the original. But also, there's a new layer where Sephiroth seems to be talking to Cloud directly, like in a new way, and actually appearing around him and for him, but in a way that only Cloud can see.
Yep.
Throughout the entire remake, which is new.
So I believe it's implied that this isn't the present day Sephiroth that was normally existing at the time. I believe there are theories right now that he is future Sephiroth from like the Advent Children future timeline, kind of, who is going back to make sure certain events don't play out the same way from the original game.
Interesting.
So
I haven't dove too deeply into that theory, but I can see it happening.
I will give you a few examples. So the first time Cloud runs into Sephiroth after the first reactor bombing, you run into him in an alleyway.
Yes, and everything becomes on fire immediately.
And he messes with you. And what I believe Sephiroth is doing is he's trying to make him not meet Aerith. Because in the original game, which you played today, she's standing
right after you.
Right after
you leave the reactor, she's there in the alleyway,
and she's selling flowers. She's selling flowers, and she runs into you, and she asks if you want to buy a flower. In this game, you start walking up to her, and Sephiroth, I believe, is trying to stop you from meeting her. And what happens when you start to walk toward her?
The
whispers show up.
Ghosts.
The whispers show up, right? Yeah. And that's example number one of the ghosts doing
Azkaban,
the fate, right? They're messing with fate. And then you end up, meeting Aerith. The next time...
It's interesting because... sorry to cut you off.
No,
it's interesting because that you bring that up. Yeah, because you would assume, especially someone who had played the game, my assumption was that they were somehow tied to Sephiroth because of how much imagery there was in the original game of the cloaked figures, the other clones of Genova, the alien that crashed into Earth and was the
catalyst for
supply of all these cells that were infused into people for experiments, and all the failed experiments were these clones, and they would just group towards Sephiroth, but they were all like in cloaks, and they were just brain dead and all this shit, and I was like, well, cloaks, maybe this is some kind of like reunion theme, which is probably what you're supposed to actually think. They probably wanted you to go down that road as a intentional misdirection.
Yeah, but that I think is like thrown out the window, because toward the end, Aerith, her character becomes very self-aware of what's happening, and she starts talking about things like she like says like, I have no idea what's going to happen, but things are different now, right? Like, she seems to be at multiple points talking to the world, which she did, I think, in the original game a lot, right?
Yes, she did.
But this time, I think she knows more about the timeline and what is being let on, because she implies she knows what her future is, kind of.
Yeah, there was a moment very kind of early on in the story where they show a flash of the holy materia coming out of her hair after she gets stabbed by Sephiroth.
Yep, they show you that scene. They show you multiple scenes that have yet to occur.
Then when you get to the Midgar headquarters and you watch the
Shimmer headquarters,
of super cool, like the museum and the presentation and like the planetarium, and they're zipping around what they think Neo Midgar is going to look like and everything. Then it like cuts into Meteor destroying the city, which is like straight out of the original cutscene. Like the fire tornadoes and everything, and the way the building crumbled is almost like frame for frame from the original FMV video. That's redundant. It's full motion video is what FMV stands for. But anyway, then they flash in moments like that, and I'm sitting there like, dude, this is the end of the game.
Yeah.
This is the future. We haven't been here yet.
Yeah.
And then I thought of all the things that Cloud had flashed in front of him, and I'm like, oh shit, dude. They're going down some timeline shit, aren't they?
They're going down some timeline shit, and it definitely feels like that. And like all these moments where these whispers show up are all examples of the game's of the future Sephiroth trying to make a change, but the whispers step in and make sure it doesn't happen that way. And another example is like when Jesse gets injured before the next bombing mission, just to make sure, because Cloud was going to leave, right? He was like, oh, I'm done. You already paid me, blah, 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 or whatever. And then he joined again because Jesse got injured.
Exactly.
And then speaking of Jesse, I know we're talking about Whispers right now, but they added like a whole chapter with her, which we were going to talk about on the main show.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. Yeah, we'll definitely get there. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with the Whispers alone, because the end of the game, they imply that you're fighting against your fate. right? Like when you enter this like Midgar verse, which I've aptly called it with my friend, the Midgar verse.
I mean, so
yeah,
you got to this point before I did.
Yeah.
And like I said, you mentioned that it was like, yeah.
Okay, so specifically what I was referring to was what I referred to as Mojo's Wild Ride.
Yeah, what is that specifically?
It's the moment where Sephiroth goes to Genova, and it's a famous scene from the original game, right? Like where he's looking up at her and he goes to reach for her in Mojo's lab, right? And he takes her.
Hojo.
I keep saying Mojo, don't I?
Yeah.
That's okay. All
That's
right.
the character from the Powerpuff Girls.
Powerpuff
Mojo
Girls,
Jojo.
yeah, Mojo Jojo, yeah, of course. And that scene instantly gets you blue-balled because you don't watch that happen, right? You get Cloud gets separated from the team, and then it becomes this like party swapping, gate opening and closing like game until. Okay. And I was like, I'm on my stream and I'm sitting here. I'm like, yo, man, like I'm ready to like do this. Like why are we extending this more? Like I've already played the game for like 40 hours at this point. Like I don't think
the party swap bridge extension, sending power to different areas, definitely the longest and most tedious section.
Yeah,
in the game for sure.
So that's what I was referring to last week.
Yeah,
specifically.
Got it.
But like once you get past that, the game gets right back on track. And the game itself does this multiple times. Like where all of a sudden, like I'm cruising, I'm enjoying the fights, I'm enjoying the cutscenes, and then the game's like, nope, now you gotta carry Aerith on these mechanical hands for a solid 15 minutes, and I'm like, bro, why? Why are we doing this?
So yes, if we're gonna knock the game on a pacing issue, it's definitely stuff like that. I walked over the one mechanical hand that is in the original game.
It's just backdrop. It's just a backdrop.
I'm just like, well, there's the one hand, but you have to like, bring it over and pick her up and line her up. And you have to do it like in 3 different entire sections and running through multiple mobs and stuff. And so it's a little bit. You're just like, okay, this is padding.
Yeah, like
a section where you go up to the plate from the very first night with Jesse and meet Jesse's family. That's like the great kind of padding.
That's I would call that expanding. I like that. Padding has a negative connotation.
Right. Expanding is very, very positive.
Because I enjoyed it. I was like, wow, this is something completely new that we haven't seen before. And it was still enjoyable to watch and enjoyable to play through. Yeah.
Not even the fact that it focuses on Jesse, which is dope, but like as a world building section, you're walking through a residential district of one of the top plates of Midgar. We never got to see that.
Yep.
We never got to see anything like that.
It was a good expansion of the world and lore of the game that we generally didn't experience before, which I thought was great. That felt really good. Another section that I really loved that I didn't feel was padding. Like the wall market stuff, where there's like the side quests that you do, and some of those are kind of tedious. But like even like the stuff that you did with Johnny in that section, pretty cool. And then the Honeybee Inn scene itself was wild, man. I loved
the dance sequence.
I loved it. Yeah, that was great.
That was incredible.
I loved it. And then apparently he's got like more dresses that you can unlock. Like I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I think every character between Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith have 3 dresses each.
Oh, that's crazy.
That can be worn. And then there's 2 primary storylines depending on how you handle Sam's coin toss. And that kind of drives the way that it goes past that point,
Right. Oh, of course. What did you choose for the coin toss?
I chose Tails, and it was just, if you choose either of the head or Tails, you lose. The only way to like win Sam's
is to not play.
To say like don't play.
Yeah.
And then that'll give you like his quest, that's I think a fetch like you're visiting multiple places with Johnny, because I was talking to my brother and he's like, oh yeah, like I was at this store and I was at this store and they gave me this rating for something, and I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like I missed nothing that I did.
I missed all of that.
Yeah. So it's either one or the other. It's one quest line or the other quest line.
I might have picked heads or tails.
If you do that with Sam, you don't get quests from Madam M. You see her scene, you see the hand massage scene, but like she's not the one that directs you to do certain things, which she is if you pick a head or tail on the coin.
Yeah, she was
it's
the
like
one.
An entirely diverging wall market section.
Oh, that's so. Maybe I will play that chapter again in hard mode.
Yeah,
like why not?
Yeah.
Just
There's
to see
an entire half of that I just didn't see.
see.
Yeah.
wild. That's wild.
I know. Also, something I didn't know, in the Honeybee Inn, you can, in the original still, you can peek in the keyholes and see what's going on in the rooms, right?
Oh, really?
You can do that in the remake. Because again, my brother's like, "Yo, Palmer at the Honeybee Inn chasing one of the girls around." And I'm like,
What?
"Bro, what?" I didn't look in any keyhole in any room in the Honeybee Inn, but apparently you can do that.
Oh my god, that's insane.
Yep.
I didn't do that either.
There's so much. I bet there's so much shit that I still don't know.
That's cool.
About the game that's hidden in there.
Just to get this out of the way, another thing that I would take a knock at this game for, because overall, again, great experience. I loved it.
Sure.
But the characters, the main cast, are so incredibly detailed, like in down to like every follicle of hair on their heads, right? Like they're amazingly rendered and beautiful.
Yeah.
And then there's moments where like I walk next to an object and then there's just like a texture that's from like 96, like, you know,
the texture
like straight
pop,
out.
man.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like
Yep.
I gotta just bring that up. I can't just like not acknowledge that
it's
happened.
very fair. I feel like, I mean, I'm a mega fan for sure, but I feel like I always try to be objective. So the things you're saying are very, very, very accurate. But I feel like I would buy this game again on the PlayStation 5 just to like play without shitty textures.
Hey, rumor has it it's coming to PC.
That is true.
So that might be the move. That might be the move.
There we go.
Happens.
Solved. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So I got to just point that out from that. But yeah. So overall, and then like just going back to like padding and stuff. Yeah. Overall, like those sections of the game, like Hojo's lab, and just a few of those like even the side missions I didn't mind so much. Like I liked doing things for people in that world, because that's not something that you would have done in the original, right? Like it's not.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So like even like doing that, like what's that Robin Hood side quest? It's not Robin Hood. It's like
no, the
she's like a mysterious
the something of the slums, like the angel of the slums.
Angel of the slums, yeah.
Angel of the slums.
Like all that stuff kind of like adds to the world, right? It adds
dude,
flavor.
course.
It adds a little bit of flavor,
I mean, like,
you know?
like the school teacher that's also a girl with the Honeybee Inn.
Moonlights as a dancer, yeah.
The school teacher with like a group of kids in Sector 5 is fantastic, and like it just, I don't know, man. Any chance to learn more about the world
It's a plus.
was fantastic, and they did such justice.
Yeah,
you know, it gave you
so.
such a fill-in of the world. Like it's been years since I played Crisis Core, but Crisis Core gave me a similar feeling, because you could run around the slums in, at the time, better 3D, you know, than the original game. Actually look up at the plate above you as you're running around, and I'm like, damn, this feels like a real world. Like I'm getting more of a painting of what it's like to live down here. And this game gave me that feeling times a million.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I noticed you really like to like just take the environments in, just like look.
Oh, dude.
You're like just like look what they did. We're in Midgar right now, like, you know.
If I wasn't streaming, I probably would have finished the game with like 60 hours.
Just
I
like
feel like I would have
poking at everything. Yeah.
every single thing, dude.
Yeah.
I would have done every single thing.
Okay, so let's get back more onto the plot. So, I know we're jumping around here a little bit, but back to the Whispers. There's other moments, which I know you caught this one. Hojo said, "Wait, you're not a soldier," to Cloud, and then he got pulled away by the Whispers, because he's not supposed to find out yet, right? Is that that implies
in the
that
original?
Right? Yeah.
In the original, he sees his eyes and he goes, "It's like, oh yes, soldier." Or wait, hold on. I literally just did this today. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, you're. I gotta rely on you for this.
They definitely don't, with Hojo, imply that Cloud is not actually a soldier. They don't. I forget the wording exactly, but they don't really hint with him yet. You have a scene with the president right before the airbuster,
which is not what happens. That's not the original game either. Because in the original game, you walk into the president's office and he's just got the sword in his back, right?
Oh, yes. So, well, I'm talking about Cloud, like early in the game, like the Sector 5 reactor.
Got it.
Like before the airbuster fight, and him and the president have an exchange where he's like, "Hey, I'm Cloud." He's like, "Oh, Cloud." He's like, "Well, I can't be, expected to remember everyone. There's a lot of people." He's like, "But you're clearly a soldier." So like they don't really tip their hat too much early on. Yeah, no, the original death of the president was you walked into his office after escaping from prison, which also you aren't put into in the remake. In the remake, you are kind of like taken to Aerith's room, but then you just kind of walk out again after something else happened. In the original game, you try to escape after you break out Red 13. You fight like the weird specimen boss, and you're like, cool, let's just fucking dip. Then you get caught, and you get put in prison, and that's when you see the trail of blood, which is actually Sephiroth stealing Jenova. You don't know that, but you get out of prison. Everyone's dead. You're following the trail of blood. You get up to the president's office. He's dead. And you're like, oh my God, Sephiroth has to be here. Then Palmer shows up and goes, I saw him. I legit saw him.
Yeah. You're talking about the old game or the new game?
The old game is how this happened.
See,
so they remixed this in the new game.
Yeah.
You don't actually get like put in a prison, but once you kind of get out of Hojo's lab, you see like they made it like alien blood.
Yeah.
All over the headquarters, which I thought was kind of cool. But a good friend of mine made a really good point that I would agree with after playing through the sequence on the original. You do miss a lot of like the creepiness of that impact by being stuck in prison and then realizing that like you're free all of a sudden, but you're free because everyone is dead and there's blood across the floor.
Yep.
And it's playing like tracking. It's like,
it gets really eerie.
Like, what the fuck is going on, dude? You know, and then you see the president with a sword in his back. I think they changed it because of how heavy they were leaning into Sephiroth early on.
Yeah, because they definitely are throwing Sephiroth at you earlier than the original game ever meant to intend to.
For sure.
Yeah.
And my biggest gripe with the game would be the fact that if I didn't play the original, I would have no idea still why I should care about Sephiroth.
Right. And that's another
Besides
problem.
What they tell me at the end, they're like, oh, it's like the last hour, and they're like, well, he's bad because this,
right?
And
but there's no reason
for
you to care
because
at
in
that
the future all this will happen, and then you fight him. I'm just like,
well, when that happens, it feels like it's almost not being fair to new players of the game, because new players will go in expecting, oh, I'm gonna get to play the story that people love to talk about so much after all this time, and now they're getting this kind of like, oh, but it's not going to happen the way it used to happen because this character is doing something really important. And the veterans like you and I are like, well, this is kind of interesting that they're doing a twist on it. But anyone who's new to the game is going to be like, okay. And like,
right. I mean, they don't care.
There's
they just
no build up
know
for
what's
them.
going on.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it ends up just being more confusing for a lot of people at the end. Like, for example, like people in your chat were like, I'm gonna spoil the ending again. All right, we're gonna talk about it.
We're done. We're done.
We're done with that.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
If it's your fault, if you somehow have missed every spoiler at this point and you're still here.
So you fight Sephiroth in the Midgarverse, right? Which is just some kind of like weird alternate dimension or whatever. And you fight. Okay, first of all, the three shadows that you fight, those three bosses that you fight.
Oh, the Kingdom Hearts boss battle. You mean that we did?
Yeah,
at the very
exactly. Do you know who I think those are? And I think it was implied. It's implied that they are his. From Advent Children, the three children of his.
Oh,
because the weapons that they're using are similar to the. Because I actually watched Advent Children like a couple days ago.
It's funny. I went into the beginning of it too. I couldn't stay up because I had to sleep. But I was like,
it's like 2.5 hours of pretty
it's
boring
on Crackle
stuff.
for free.
Oh, really?
By the way, yeah.
That's cool. That's good to know. Actually,
sponsor us, Crackle. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll do it. Sure. Yeah.
It's full of ads. So if you have another way to watch it. But it is free on Crackle.
But I watched it, and they have these, like, one has a gauntlet weapon, one has I guess like a gun, like small gun, like a gun sword kind of thing.
Sword, yeah.
And then one just uses a sword, and they all had weapons that kind of like were similar to those weapons. So
did one of those ghosts really have like the punchy?
Yep, one of them was a punch. Oh, and I was watching you fight them again. I was like, huh, that's really interesting.
I don't know. See, the only problem, because it's not a bad theory. I like the theory a lot, but the only problem with it is that the being is supposed to be fate itself. Not that Sephiroth would have like an influence in that. He should be separate from that from a storytelling perspective. I think. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's the only thing that I would have a hang up with if that's the theory.
Right. Yeah, just a theory I got floating around.
It is interesting, dude, especially with them using the same kind of weapons.
Yeah, and at the end, you beat Sephiroth, right? Your party. It's an epic moment of your party coming together. And
look, it's a super fucking cool battle.
It's a cool battle. But
It's a great battle. I had a lot of fun.
But my problem with the battle is this isn't an earned battle. Like story-wise,
Yes,
there's no reason for me to hate Sephiroth right now.
That's what I'm saying. As a new player, especially,
you don't know his motivations. You don't know why he's doing what he's doing. You don't know who he is and the history that Cloud and him have.
Technically, even the people in this game, these versions of these characters don't have that knowledge or information.
They don't. They have no idea why they should hate this guy. It's not until going through, now get spoilers for the original game, it's not until you go through what happened to Nibelheim and you go through what happened to Aerith and all these other characters things, and you find out his motivations and what he wants to do, and then that final battle is earned, right? In the original game. You want to stop Sephiroth.
Yeah.
But
because to paint this picture, and we'll heavily spoil the end of the original, like Neo was saying, you learn all these major beats. You learn pretty much early on that Sephiroth is not good, and he's kind of gone rogue, and is
it's all implied,
mad at something, right? And should be dead, but is somehow not. You know all that, and then as you progress in the game, he kills Aerith, so you're really upset about that. Obviously, he's pretty bad. Then you learn his ultimate plan, knowing that he is essentially like a test tube baby, just a child of an alien. He hates that he has been brought into existence. He hates what humans have done. He thinks he deserves everything that his mother, the alien, should have had, which is domination over this planet and all of its power and energy and everything, and decides to damage the planet so much so that it's going to gather all of its healing energy to heal the wound, literally like a body,
like blood coming in to cauterize itself, right? Like how humans do. Yeah.
And he's gonna literally put himself physically in the center of this and absorb all this energy and become a god. That's what he wants to do,
right?
For his own,
and then eventually throw a meteor at the planet, right?
Yeah. Well, the meteor causes the wound, then he gets in the wound and sucks all it up.
Got it.
And then so that's bad on top of bad on top of bad for a lot of reasons, right?
Yeah.
And it's only at that point that you actually get into like a battle with him finally, and it's like an epic like 4-phase battle where you're fighting different versions of him and
mutations and
mutations, representations just of his physical form, his spirit form, all this kind of wild shit. So that's an earned battle.
Yeah, it is.
Him being like the last fight in this game is like a cool wink. But again, like we were saying, these characters specifically shouldn't care that much. They probably don't want to be near him because they know enough at that point to be like, this guy kind of sounds a little shady. And Cloud knows that he's bad and has been bad and maybe should be dead. So he knows that at least.
Yep.
For a fact.
But the audience doesn't. Or shouldn't if you're a new player at least.
All of the the current future spelled out for them.
Yeah, so it's almost as if that fight's like, hey guys, you know Sephiroth, like the people who know Sephiroth, you'll like this, this. But everyone I've spoken to about this game, and it's been all over. Like no one. I don't think anyone it really jived with anyone, old fans, because the moment I saw that, I was like, oh no, purists aren't going to like this, right? Like like a lot of the things in this game that purists aren't going to like because of the whispers and all the things that have happened that changes the story and all that stuff. And new players, I'm like purists aren't going to like this, and new players aren't going to understand why this is important or what's going on in the totality of it all.
If I had to separate my criticisms specifically, I mind less that you fight him last, because as a new player, like if that's the lens I'm going to be using for this, by the way. Like if I'm putting myself in the new player position, as a new player, like seeing all the shit that he has done and does in the game up to that point, then him attacking you at the end, that would set me up. He's going to be even badder. Okay, I'm kind of bought in on this, right? But my bigger problem is that they don't do the why of the storytelling.
Yep.
They don't do it. Like you see everyone in Hojo's lab when he actually shows up physically, and you know that he's really there because Tifa reacts to him and Aerith reacts to him.
Yep.
You see everyone react to him.
So I believe, but I believe they're two different Sephiroths, is what I'm thinking, because of the timeline, the whole implications of there being an alternate timeline. I believe that Sephiroth in Hojo's lab is the real original Sephiroth that you're supposed to encounter in that moment, because he's there,
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And then he kills the president, and all that stuff happens. Oh, by the way, freaking shooting Barrett, like stabbing Barrett in the chest.
Yep.
I was like, no, they're not.
Well, I immediately knew that the ghosts were going to fix it somehow.
Well, exactly, right? Like
keeping the hand of fate or whatever.
It's nuts that they did that. And when that happened, I was like, it's almost like the game is like looking at the camera and being like, this ain't your daddy's Final Fantasy, right? Like this isn't the original as you know it, because anything can happen right now at this point. So you won't really know what to expect. And then when the game ends with Sephiroth, and you and Cloud and Sephiroth are standing in this, I guess, the plane of like the edge of the universe or whatever, the edge of the dimension.
Oh, at the very, very end. That looked like where you. No, I mean it definitely was where you fought him at the end of the original game, like just the you versus him Omni-Slash battle, like where you don't ever lose, you just attack him.
He says
because they did the same camera angles.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, all the same, like the way it's like choo choo choo, and they like zoom in on each one, and they're like close and everything. And even the Cloud zooming in is the literal original cutscene.
Yeah,
of him zooming in.
And he says 7 seconds till the end. How will you choose? And at first, I thought
time enough for you, but something else. Like how will you use it or something.
And
like that.
at first, I thought he was talking about Aerith, saving Aerith, because that's future Sephiroth you're talking to, and he knows what happens, right?
Right.
But the chapter description reads, in the world beyond, Sephiroth shows Cloud a vision of the planet 7 seconds before its demise. Having stayed from the course destiny set for them, they strike out on a path toward an unknown future. So all of that implies that the next game will be something not radically different, but like we don't know what the story is going to be going forward from here, right? Because anything can happen at this point, because the game didn't end the same way this chapter ends in the original story.
Right.
And not only that, I also have a tweet here pulled up. The director, Nomura, said, "We're not drastically changing the story and making it into something completely different than the original. Even though it's a remake, please assume the story will continue as the story always has." And that is a thing he said. But the game, from the time it was announced, actually, I went back and I watched the announcement trailer for this game back in 2015. Then there's a narrator talking over it, and he says things like things will never be the same. You might not, he actually is implying directly that you're going to play the story again, but don't expect a beat for beat recreation of what you expect of the game to be. And it almost as if like they were trying to tell us all along, and then the game specifically throughout the entire game is constantly telling you that this isn't happening the way it used to happen, right? Like it's always doing that. So I think that's really interesting that they chose to do that, but I understand why they would do it, because why would you want to do the same thing again, right? Like as a creator.
It's a great excuse, to inject freshness into the story and have veteran players play it and truly have no idea what to expect. They probably could have just stuck with expanding sections, and we all would have just loved it still, as long as it's the same exact story.
Yeah.
But I'm not opposed to the idea of them changing things at my core.
Speaking
obviously,
of core.
I would have a problem. Yeah, I would have a problem if the game that we play, the timeline that we play, the thing that we control and experience, I would be upset if people like Zack were alive and if Aerith never gets killed.
So that's the next part of the ending that we didn't talk about yet. So do you want to describe what happens after or during the final moments of the game? Because
before I do that, I'm just going to finish the last little loop of my thought.
Do it.
I would be okay with it if there's some mechanic or some part of the story where they see that possibility. Mm-hmm. But I don't want it to be the possibility.
Let me ask you this before you talk about the next part of the ending. Do you see them not killing Aerith?
I don't. I can't. I don't see them.
You think they're not going to kill Aerith?
No, I think they're going to kill Aerith.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were asking, can you see them not killing Aerith?
Because like at this
no.
point, I'm like, the way a lot of this was implied, because I think Aerith knows she has to die at this point, because I think we have a more self-aware Aerith of what's going on.
Even in the original, when she got closer to it, she like knew.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What she was going to do.
She knew. Yeah. No. In the original story, absolutely. But that was like, I want to say like, within a few chapters of it happening, right? Like within a few moments, like within. It was intimate in the game.
She dips from I think dips from the gold saucer. Like, I gotta go. I gotta do some shit, and then you have to chase her to the Temple of the Ancients.
Yeah, and like a lot of things were implied, but I believe this Aerith in this remake actually is already aware of what her role is in this whole experience, this whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but do you want to talk about the next part?
Yeah, so the very 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 end of the game, they show you a vision of a character named Zack, and Zack is important because Zack is the template for who Cloud thinks he is. Cloud was never a soldier. Cloud was only ever like the lowest level of the Shinra military. Mm-hmm. Zack was the soldier first class. Zack had the big ass Buster sword. Zack wore the sleeveless faux turtleneck sweater all the time. Like that was Zack, right?
Yeah, and in that case, that means Cloud is your unreliable narrator, right? Because you see all those experiences from his point of view first, right?
Cloud went through some very, very intense trauma along with Zack, and they were both experimented on by Hojo, and Zack helped them both escape, but Cloud was just kind of like fucked up by it all. And in their escape, Zack ended up dying, and Cloud survived. Cloud was kind of left to die by Shinra soldiers that chased him down, as he was just like kind of like a babbling, experimented on husk of a person, right? So in all that trauma and brain damage and just abuse that he went through, mm-hmm. he just imprinted essentially all these experiences and memories, and for a while really thought that he had done all those things that he experienced along with Zack.
Right.
So Cloud isn't who he is without going through that moment.
And he did get Mako poisoned, right?
Yes.
He got Mako poisoned, which is why people still see him and go, oh, your eyes. And
his eyes look like soldier eyes because he does have, Genova cells inside of him. He was experimented on by Hojo. He was, infused with a bunch of Mako, and he's all fucked up.
Failed experiment as far as I remember, right? He was like a failed subject and just became a normal soldier.
Not to go too rabbit holey, but Hojo had a ton of experiments. He was doing on a fuck ton of people. He scooped Zack and Cloud from the remains of Nibelheim. After they like killed Sephiroth in the reactor, they were just kind of left there. Zack got stabbed, Cloud was stabbed, Tifa was all fucked up too. Tifa's martial arts teacher saved her from the village, but he didn't give a shit about anyone else. And it was Zack and Cloud who kind of got captured and were experimented on by Hojo. But without Zack dying, busting them out of the lab, which probably could still happen, but without Zack dying, there's no one for Cloud to like become and pretend to be, because Zack would exist.
It sets him on the path to the start of the game, right? Like
if Zack would exist, Cloud, even if Cloud thought that he did those things, people were like, no, that was no Zack, dude. You just get in the hospital and we'll fix you up for a little bit. It'll be fine. You got a little plant of juice in your brain. You're gonna be okay. Mm-hmm. And then he wouldn't be the person that he is. So that would change everything if Zack was alive.
Right.
And at the end of the game,
Crisis Core,
the characters are walking. No, at the end of this game, Final Fantasy VII Remake, as the characters are walking away from Midgar, because they appear outside of the city already, and they're just walking away, what we assume is toward the next city. There's I don't know if it's a vision or like another timeline overlapping their timeline or somehow, but you see literally Zack carrying Cloud arm in arm, walking the opposite direction of the main group of people
toward Midgar,
which implies that he survived the ambush that was supposed to have killed him. I mean, and Aerith almost kind of like senses that someone is there, and kind of looks over a little bit.
Yeah,
as they walk past them.
And I don't know what it's directly implying, or if it's if it's implying that it's a vision, or if it's maybe the events of Zack's fight changed, right? Like it could just be toward the audience just saying this fight happened differently now, because at the end at the end of Crisis Core, you actually, I watched the original video from Crisis Core. It's almost like a shot for shot remake of that, except for the last moments, right? Like even the lines that he says are the same. And I don't know if you noticed, there's a moment in that scene where there's like a chip bag that like kind of lingers on the screen a little bit longer. That's the Avalanche dog that they were talking about, right?
That's the Avalanche dog, but it's not the same design that you've seen throughout the entire game.
Yeah, and that
implies a slight different world, to me at least, when I see that.
Are we gonna have like a Laguna situation that like kind of takes us between two different? You think the next game's gonna have like one of those situations where it's like we'll be playing as Zack at certain points?
I don't know.
Are we in the right spot to like start predicting what the future game will be?
I don't know. I mean, like,
it's tough.
I wouldn't hate playing as Zack, but I really don't want them to lean into like two parallel timelines and then have them be like, which one's better? Which one is more valid? Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Like, I want them to like acknowledge the fact that, you know, your choices in life have meaning and, you know, reverberate through time and create different things and possibilities and stuff like that. Like, that could be a cool thing to explore. But I think if they kind of force these characters into the game that weren't there originally, just to give people the experience of playing them, I don't think that would work out really, really well.
No, I don't think so either.
I'm going to tangent for just like a minute. I'm going to keep it as quick as I possibly can.
I'm ready.
And this is my favorite book series of all time is The Dark Tower by Stephen King. Okay. Felix is a huge fan of these same book series, and Stephen King as well. Another major spoilers for the Dark Tower series, and I'm serious. If anyone here is listening to this and likes to read Stephen King, The Dark Tower ties almost all of King's books together. The Stand, Talisman, all these books tie into the Dark Tower story. So there's heavy implications for all of Stephen King's shit in what I'm about to say. But the main story of the Dark Tower is about this like gunslinger who goes through multiple worlds, including multiple versions of Earth and stuff like this. And his mission is to get to the Dark Tower, which is the linchpin of all existence, of all reality. Like, every possible version of every possible reality is held together by the Dark Tower, and it's crumbling, and it's affecting every possible existence across infinity. He gets there at the final end of the final page of the 7th book, walks to the very, very top, opens a door, and that's the end of the story. And the next chapter is the beginning words from the very first Dark Tower novel, implying that it's a loop. That he does all this, he goes on this epic quest, hits the top of the tower, loops back around,
and then it just starts again
to a moment in his life. As you read this, you're like, fuck, man. Like, so we're just going to be looping around? Like, that's just kind of what it is? But then they add something. He has an item with him from his childhood that in the original first book, he makes a big point to lament that he has lost and just is sad that he couldn't get it back because it has so much meaning for his family. In the end of the 7th book, they say, like, he straightens his shit up and he grabs like this horn, and you're like, oh shit. So he did something previously that changed this path, and now he has this thing. He has this very, very, very important item with him, and maybe this time something else will be different in the story. Maybe something else will be changed or affected or something like that. I get very, very, very big Dark Tower vibes from the way they play this ending out.
Yeah, connect it back to this. Like how do you see this playing out?
There's so many different variations of reality and possibilities, and they directly hinted at that by showing you a potato chip bag with the same mascot, but like he's got a different kind of hat on. It's still a green hat. It's still got 4 stars on the hat, but it's like a 5-panel hat instead of like an army helmet.
Right.
You know, like slight things. Like they even in the second Dark Tower, they go to New York, but it's like in New York where there's someone else on the $5 bill. And that's the only change in that world.
Right. Weird.
You know, like little things like that. So I hope that ultimately it's kind of maybe an examination of meaning of choice. You know, like the consequences of your actions, the ripples of time, stuff like that. I don't want them to lean into being like, well,
Zack's alive
now.
Yeah.
Like that, I think would be super, super lame.
Yeah.
They're already at that road because they're showing you that he's walking away and they're showing you the chip bag, so they're there. It just depends on what they want to do with that.
Yeah, I wonder. See, I wonder if the next version of the next game that they make will ultimately show, like, either it'll show us a world where Zack lives and let the player continue on the path of the original story of the game, because the creators are implying that no, you're going to be visiting Gold Saucer and you're going to be doing all the other beats that are in the original story.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they are going to like have kind of like a movie, like interspersed throughout the story, like interspersed between chapters or whatever, showing you what it's like with Zack alive. And I don't even know what that means. That's my guess, you know?
On a similar way, I think the best way to do this would be to overlap the worlds.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, maybe have some moment ultimately, like, where Zack realizes that in this time, like, he's died.
Yeah.
But maybe him and Cloud have a conversation, and he's like, I wouldn't be the man I am without you, or something.
Yeah.
You know, like, you made this happen, and they have some kind of, like, meaningful dialogue together, but, like, then they realize, like, no, we have to, like, continue on this way, because in this world, Sephiroth is here.
Or does the world that Zack stays alive in, does it push back because he's alive? Like, could be one of those situations where, like, things are happening wrong because he's alive, and like another Whisper kind of like a Whisper situation, right?
Yeah,
where like the world is going to now try and overcorrect because Zack is alive.
Like he's carrying Cloud towards Midgar. He slips and falls off the cliff, and he dies anyway. And Cloud's still there with his sword, some shit.
Totally, like a Final Destination situation, right? You know,
right.
oh, this person's supposed to die, so
that's definitely a possibility too.
Yeah, it's just really weird. What do you think of them making that decision to like kind of have this kind of wacky, like weird ending? Like, what do you?
It's smart. I think it's smart for them as writers because it gives them infinity freedom.
Yeah, because now the future can be anything.
It's scary though.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? Like,
what would you say?
Chances of fucking up this story by doing something like this than giving us the game.
The story, the original story.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who are like vehemently against this decision, or like just the ending itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Look, you can think what you want about anything.
Sure,
be free, be a human. But I think if you are truly a fan of the original and you appreciate what the story conveys and how it's told, I would say have an open mind. Like I don't like there's nothing that can be lost. You know, like nothing's gonna destroy your experience of the original game. You know,
exactly. Yeah.
If you don't like it, you don't like it. You don't have to play the new one. But I know as someone who feels like formed partially as to who I am by playing the original, I've only had my experience heightened by playing the remake. So I'm excited for more of that, even if I have concerns, sure, about how that might happen. But like ultimately my experience has only been made better from what they've given us about this world and around this world with the remake.
I think I'm pretty much on the same boat as you. I really liked my whole experience with the game. Like overall, like I ended the game. I was like, aside for that last hour, this was a great time. This was a really great time. It's kind of a shame that it ended like that, right? But like at the same time, I was smiling the whole game. So like to me, I think the experience was overall positive. And I am excited to see where they're going to go with the game because of that. I'm excited to not really be certain because like.
Right, exactly.
They could have just ended it at them walking off into the sunset without the Sephiroth fight, right? They get to the end of the fight, and that could have been the credits. I've been like, all right, can't wait till we go to Calm and do all the other things in the next game, right? Like that I know of. And now the game ends, and I'm like, well, now things are going to be a little different and a little weird, and I don't actually. It's keeping everyone on their toes, right? Like, because no one knows what to think now.
Yeah.
Overall,
I think they earned my trust with how they gave us this experience. So based on that alone, I'm willing to see where they want to take it next.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with you there. I do want to see where they take it next. Try to see if there's anything else I want to bring up.
Yeah.
But we pretty much covered this thing to death.
Yeah.
I hope that answers the who is Zack question. I know some people are asking who is Zack. So,
that was all taken care of. We got very in depth on who Zack was.
Cool.
There was many drinks, many FaceTimes going into detail about what this all means.
Yeah, it's cool, and like I love the idea that for new people this is going to be a weird experience as well, because the original game was kind of a weird experience at the time too.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, if I did have any kind of desire for the next one, I just hope that the new player is catered to a little bit more in terms of story completeness.
Yes, I would 100% would like to see that as well.
At the very end of this, it just becomes a whole bunch of why should I care about this for new people. For me, it was a fantastic nostalgia trip and a lot of implication for the future. But if you, again, like we said many times over this podcast, if you don't have that connection, you might not vibe with it beyond just face value, which in terms of meaning wasn't a lot. You pretty much were just given what you were given. And they started off so strong. They took like cutscenes from Calm and were sprinkling them in to kind of give you some backstory and some hints. And all it would have needed was for some character to give just a little bit of exposition, put a bow on it, and give someone context. But we ended without the final little bow of context. And that can kind of make someone disinterested in the ultimate kind of thread.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want them to pay attention a little bit more to how it might look to a brand new, no connection to Final Fantasy's universe player. Yeah,
and I think new players do need that. Absolutely, they need that context, because when I was watching, I felt bad for anyone who's like new to this, because they wouldn't get it. They just wouldn't get it.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you think? You got anything? Any other thoughts that you want to add in?
No, I'm good.
I think we covered this pretty thoroughly.
Got everything. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, if you're watching out there, if you were hanging out, if you were well, not hanging out because this was a secret recorded show.
Super secret.
This will be on YouTube. This will be on our audio feeds as well. But if you dug this kind of bonus content, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you liked about it. We can talk about more of the game. If we missed anything that you thought about, please hit us up for sure. And we'll discuss it. And we're probably going to do more of this for other games that come out in the future.
Yeah, whenever they start coming out again, for sure.
Video games.
Absolutely.
Lamau.
All right, yeah, I guess we'll just sign it off, right?
I think so. Sounds good. Yep, I've been Trip Zero.
I've been Neo Aoshi.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys on the podcast the Wednesday nights, Emergent_Gamer on Mixer or Twitch.
Bye-bye.
Later.